he's dead.
Jason's body has disappeared from the morgue.
Hello and welcome to another bad movie review. This time we are talking about Friday the 13th Part 4, which is typically titled Friday the 13th The Final Chapter. This one came out in 1984. It was directed by Joseph Zito. The special effects were done by the legendary Tom Savini, who also played Jason in one scene, which is really not that big of an achievement because it was really just like an arm and some feet. But there were two people to technically play Jason then. The other one was Ted White. The late Ted White was known for doing stunt work on like Escape from New York, but he also did a lot of bit parts in a whole lot of TV shows and movies. But he is somebody that didn't get credited for being Jason in the film, and actually did a really good job, I thought. This is one of the more widely regarded movies, mostly because of the iconic movie poster. This was a fairly popular movie at the time. The slasher flicks were really picking up around this time, and it shows. This film follows a group of about 6 college kids, and they're moving into one of the cabins on the lake. This takes place immediately after part 3. And like the ambulances are quite literally moving away from the scene across the lake while these kids are coming here. They do meet a couple of young ladies on bicycles, and they also meet Trish and Tommy and their mother. Now Trish is kind of supposed to be the central focus, but the movie spends a lot more time with this girl Sarah, leading you to think she's going to be the final girl. Now Sarah is played by Barbara Howard, who had a fairly short-lived career, unfortunately. Pretty decent actress, but she was mostly bit parts on TV and movies, and this was probably her most widely known thing other than some appearances on Falcon Crest and a movie called Lucky Stiff. But Sarah and her friends don't really figure out that anything crazy's going on because Jason's body was taken to the morgue, and he has to escape, obviously, which isn't very hard since he just murders people. So he takes out a doctor and a nurse, and those are our first 2 kills. From there, things get pretty saucy because we have a kill count of around 13. I'm not sure if the dog died, but that would be a 14th kill technically because the dog did jump out of a window. There's like 3 people jumping out of windows in this one and somebody getting tossed through one. We also have about 10 boob scenes, 5 butt scenes, and 2 additional man butt scenes. Much like the previous film, this one takes about 3 minutes instead of the 5 from last one to do a recap of everything and kind of bring you up to speed on what's going on and who Jason is. He doesn't quite have the reputation of being an unstoppable psychopath, but here we are. Interestingly, there's a couple of flaws in this film. The first is the opening credits scene when they first show the hockey mask and says Friday the 13th. The hockey mask they show doesn't have the red triangle on it. Also, they seem to have forgotten that Jason sustained some injuries last movie that weren't carried over into this one, and that's kind of a common theme, unfortunately, because Jason was stabbed in the leg and his hand, but that's not in any way noticeable in this one. There's no blood or rips in his pants, and there's no wound to his hand until somebody else induces one in this film. There are additional edits of this film that do have some parts taken out, mostly the TV cuts, but they did an alternate version for Germany that had a lot of significant edits. It was still banned, but they did it. There is a cut out there somewhere with that. Now, the other big goof that they did in this movie is when Tina and Tommy are hiding in Tommy's room and they move this dresser in front of the door. You'll see a Dungeons and Dragons toy of a half dragon, half lion sitting on one of the shelves. Well, when they move it and there's a wide shot, the dragon falls off. But when they cut back to Tina pushing on it, the dragon is there again. So I thought that was kind of funny. But as usual, one by one, the campers start getting picked off, and we are introduced to this kind of sketchy looking hitchhiker guy that is out camping, played by Erich Anderson. This is Rob. He's actually the brother of a victim of Jason's. And for you Star Trek nerds, he was on an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation as Commander Kieran McDuff. So do with that information what you will. Now, one of the people whose boobs you see the most of in here is the actress that plays Samantha, which is Judie Aronson. She has some interesting B-movie connections because not only was she in Weird Science, she was in American Ninja, plus a whole bunch of TV stuff like The Powers of Matthew Starr and Simon & Simon. She had a pretty good career, actually, that goes up up until about 2021. So I'm hoping she could get some more work. I thought she did a pretty good job in this movie as a scream queen. Pretty decent actress, and she had some of the better lines in the film too. And again, these aren't campers at the Camp Crystal Lake. They're just on the lake at a cabin. So while Jason is out slaughtering them one by one in the usual hilarious ways, there are only a couple of jump scares, and Rob, who's trying to get revenge on Jason, is really bad at his job. But we do get to see Tommy, who is played by the legendary Corey Feldman, later on of Lost Boys, of course, and a ton of other stuff. And Tommy gets really screwed up from this. So while there isn't just a final girl in this one, it was kind of surprising the technique they used to trick Jason in this one, and the gory, fairly graphic way in which they take him out this time. It was one of the more bloody ones, which I would chalk up to Sam Savini's influence more than anything. But it really does set up the fifth movie very, very well, because they do a change of pace before they bring Jason back. And I have to say, this was a shockingly good installment of the series. It is a straight slasher film, but aside from a little bit of padding at the beginning of the film where they do the recap thing, which I hate so much, they did a good job of advancing the story and keeping it interesting. The pacing is so much better than the last film. It's almost a different franchise. You've got much better kill sequences. Jason is a little bit more of a supernatural entity in the fact that he moves around so quickly without getting seen, but they do a few cheap things as well. For example, Rob's rifle gets broken and Jason just leaves the pieces there for him, doesn't follow through. He's just sort of like, I'll get you later kind of thing. And Jason really needed his fingernails trimmed in this film because they were horrifically bad. But Jason also knows how to disconnect phone lines and shut off the power to everything. I don't know where he learned all these things, but just kind of go with it. But it does make the pacing of the film a lot more appropriate, because then you have that sense of isolation and peril that is added because the power goes out, it's darker, and then he gets some fresh kills, that sort of thing. And they play up the interpersonal stuff between some of the college age kids pretty well, but it's all a ruse to get to the killing. And I think that was handled much better in this film than in the previous one. So a far superior film to the third installment, and I think this one probably would have benefited from the 3D, because unlike that movie, this one actually had enough kills that it would have made some of them a lot more interesting by making them a bit more 3D. But this one didn't bother to go with the gimmick. It actually went with the high body count and the boobs to sell it, and I think it worked pretty well. So this was definitely a superior film in the script. Cinematography was solid, direction was fine, but I think the script on this one was just better than the previous one, and there was some really good acting in this one as well. So a solid film and a good installment in the franchise. Definitely a recommend. If you're looking for a slasher film that's pretty well paced and has a lot of boobs, this one's for you. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the review, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews, and share it on your social media. And hopefully we will see you on the next one.